Look, Israelites are historians. Historians are good with books. They are very good with writing history. You and I believe that some of the books in the Bible today are book of histories. These were not revelations from God. This is book written by.
I don't know.
Oh,
So
okay, you don't
start
know.
by telling us or
Okay,
giving us few of those names in the Bible you feel are just histories.
okay. Let me tell you, the first 5 books of Moses were not written by Moses. The
Which
first
books are
five
the
books,
first five
when you
books?
talk of the book of Deuteronomy, the book of Numbers,
But
they were all not written by Moses. None of them were written by Moses.
but going back to Judaism, where you mentioned Torah.
Yes.
Torah is actually the law.
Yes.
And this law were all was or were the laws of Moses, right? If I get it correctly. And this happens to be the 5 books like you're about mentioning, the Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy.
Exactly.
So are you saying these books were not actually written by Moses?
No, they were not.
They were written by a scholar?
By a scholar, yes. None of these books were written by Moses. And I am not saying what was written in the book were wrong.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Because the Judaism themselves practice based on that 5
Thank you.
books.
And I'm not even saying Judaism practice is the purest. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is those 5 books were not written by Moses. In short, I can categorically tell you that even the majority of the New Testament were not written by the people their name appear to be the one to have written. In short, the funniest fact, the most interesting fact is the book of Paul, or the book of Paul.
Yes.
About 4 of his books were not written by him.
I doubt, because Paul of Tarsus is just like
okay.
He's like the pillar of the church.
Yes, of the Christians
the Christians, yes. And then
and I'm telling you,
it's a letter he actually addressed to these people, the Thessalonians, the Colossians, the Philippians, there's so many of these books.
Yes. And I'm telling you that the last 3 or 4 books of Paul were not written by him. You can check your Google.
They were written by who?
Paul's friends. This is what the bibliography is going to tell you. These books were actually not written by Paul himself, but a suggestion. No, you can get the proof. You know, this is digital economy. You are just one word away from your meta AI. The book of Paul, were they all written by Paul? We can type it here. And you will be surprised to see the answer you will see.
Yeah, I want to.
Okay.
Because we have so many of those books, the Ephesians, the Thessalonians, the Philippians, they are much. So Paul and Paul friend can't write which one. Let's see it, guys. Let's see it together. Because Christianity is
were all book of Paul written by Paul himself. I'm adding Meta AI.
Okay.
I will also show it to the screen. I hope the network will allow it to pop fast so that we can see the reply together. Were all books of Paul written by Paul. The Pauline epistle or letters written by Paul are crucial part of the New Testament in the Bible. When it comes to determining which books were written by Paul himself, scholars generally agree on 7 authentic books or letters.
What are those authentic letters?
Okay, they are all here. We have the book of Romans, 1 Corinthians, 2 Corinthians, the Galatians, the Philippians, and the Thessalonians, and Philemon. These are the ones they said, the scholars said were actually written by Paul, not me, I said. Do you understand? Now, the disputed letters are the Colossians, the Thessalonians,
the second
Thessalonians, yeah, the Ephesians, pastoral
the
epistle,
of Timothy,
the 1 and 2,
Titus, a bit Titus.
the Titus. Most scholars believe these were written by someone else after Paul's death. And if you check deeply, you come to understand that those books were written about 15 to 20 years after Paul's death.
So why did they now address it a letter to the episode, the episode?
And I am telling you that 90% of books in the Bible were not written by those authors that claim they wrote. They were not. 90%.
So what
Look at,
in summary, you're saying like the New Testament, most of the books, the authentic parts were written by Paul.
Most of the book, I don't understand. Come again with your question.
When you go to the New Testament, I think we have like how many books in the New Testament?
When you look at the first 4 books, the Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, were all not written by any of them. Yes. Are you sure? Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John were not written by any of them. Believe me, some of the story of Matthew, the large chunk of Matthew, and the large chunk of Luke were copyright from Mark. Matthew was a disciple, isn't it? He does not know how to read and write. He doesn't know how to read and write. Matthew doesn't know how to read and write.
Can you face my camera and tell them that Matthew doesn't know how to read
exactly.
and write?
Second point is Mark was 11 years old during the time of Christ, and he was never a disciple. The Mark that wrote the book of Mark, which Christians or Christian scholars today will say is the most authentic book of the New Testament, or of the 4 top books. He was never a disciple. Do you understand? Now, how do disciples copy from somebody that was never a disciple? I'm coming with an assumption now. Let's assume Matthew wrote. How is it supposed to be with the first, like you are witnessing whatever is happening, and you need to go and copy from another person's book concerning the same history of what was happening? Look, I think just like I say, we are in a digital time. If you yourself go back to your Google today and check, when was Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John written, when the book were written, you come to understand that most of these books were written years and years after Christ. Some of them were written years and years after the names of those people, after those people died. Do you understand? And then, for God's sake, the writer never say this book was written by Matthew.
So let me
It was a gospel according to what Matthew said. Now you are right.
Yes.
Thank you.
But I am.
So who wrote it?
That's what I'm asking you.
No, I'm asking you now.
No, I have to.
You see, I told you Jews are historians. This is where the whole story comes from. I told you they are known to be historians.
But if you go to the Bible, the Old Testament is what we can, like I can say, belong to like the Jewish. Because the New Testament, I was made to understand, was when Paul of Tarsus introduced Christianity.
Okay.
Or am I wrong?
Yes, you are wrong.
I'm wrong?
You are wrong. I want you to understand that Paul has never met Christ one-on-one.
Paul?
Yes.
Paul.
And the very first book of Paul was written about 15th century after Christ.
So you're saying like Paul has never met
Christ one-on-one. Paul don't know Christ. He has never spoken to Christ. He has never attended any gathering.
Ever heard of the story of Saul?
Saul,
Saul,
yes,
who persecutes Christians.
yes,
And then he was arrested.
yes. He said he was arrested. We never witnessed it. It was a dream. He saw Christ appearing to him and arrested. It was not physical arrest. Do you understand? It was not like a physical arrest. For example, if you've seen something in your dream and you say it is divine, it's beyond ordinary, okay, I have right not to believe you, right?
Yes.
So you said it's divine. It was only seen in your dream. But if it happened physically, so many people being there, like the case of Mary Magdalene, for example, why was Mary Magdalene book not in the Bible?
Does Mary Magdalene has a book?
Of course, there is.
Have you guys heard Mary
Go and check.
Magdalene has a book?
I want you to understand that during the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, the book of Mark says, at that hour, all the disciples fled. All of them fled. Do you understand? But if you look at that story, even as narrated by all of them, you will come to understand that Mary Magdalene kept, staying back. She never left. It means she witnessed whatever happened from every step to the other. Who was the first that went to the tomb where Christ was kept? Mary Magdalene. So why was his book rejected? She actually wrote all this, what she witnessed, and it was completely rejected and trashed. That book is online. You can go and read it, by the way, guys. You can go and read it because the book is online. It was already